Hello, I wanted to talk about angles today and do some revision on the angles topic. So let's start with the very basics. There are 4 types of angle and we have a straight line as well. So the first type is the very small ones. They're acute angles. They are all less than 90 degrees. Okay. A right angle is exactly 90 degrees, excuse me. An obtuse angle is, that means my value, my number is, and an obtuse angle is bigger than 90 degrees. That's what that symbol means. My number is bigger than 90, but they are also smaller than 180 degrees. So this means my number, letter X, my number is bigger than 90 degrees because we read from this side that way, and my number is smaller than 180 degrees. So an obtuse angle is anything between 90, which is a right angle, and a straight line, 180 degrees. A straight line is exactly 180 degrees, and a reflex angle is more than 180 degrees. Now you probably know all of those, but it's worth making sure that you remember them, because when we come to the next thing, which is estimating angles and measuring our angles, is where we tend to go wrong. So this angle here, you should be able to see, based on what we've got written at the top, is an acute angle. It's less than a right angle, it's less than 90 degrees, so it's an acute angle. Now, excuse my homemade protractor, but here we go. When we come to measure it, there are 2 numbers on my protractor. There are 2 numbers that work, and one of them is the outside number and one is the inside number. And unless we can estimate our angle, unless we can guess with a bit of education in there, unless we can work it out that way, we get a little bit confused by how big our number is. Now, because we know that that angle is acute, we need to keep that in our head and estimate how big we think it is. Well, we can see that it's less than 90 degrees. 90 degrees would come, let's do it in a different colour, 90 degrees would come up to about here, wouldn't it? So we can see that it's about 2/3 of that angle. So if we know it's about 2/3 of 90, we know it's got to be about 60 degrees. So we'd estimate or guess our angle at 60 degrees. Putting our protractor on and double checking. Now, to put our protractor on, when we're using a protractor, you put the point in the middle of the protractor on the point of your angle. So you can see that my dot in the middle of my protractor is exactly over the point on the angle. Then we line up the bottom line on our protractor, you can see the bottom line there, with the bottom line of my angle, and we measure around. Now we use the 0 that's on the bottom line of our angle. So here, the 0, we've got the 0 as the inside numbers, and then the outside numbers are 180. You possibly can't see that from where you are, but I'm going to have to use my inside numbers, and that means that I can see that this angle is in fact about 58 degrees. It's slightly less than 60 degrees. Now, it's really easy to get muddled up and to say that that's just a bit more than 120, and so it's 122. But if we're looking at both of those 2 numbers and we've already estimated our angle and know that it's an acute angle and we've estimated it at 60, we can tell straight away, even if we forget whether we're using the 0 at the bottom and the inside numbers or the 0 at the outside numbers, we can remember and work out exactly which one we want really, really easily. Okay? So looking at this angle then, this angle is bigger than 90 degrees, so it is an obtuse angle. Okay, that means we know from what we've got written up here that it must be bigger than 90 degrees and smaller than 180 degrees. Okay, so when I put my protractor on in a minute, we're going to be able to measure it and find out exactly how big it is, but we're going to estimate. So we can tell that our 90 degrees would be about here, if we went for a straight line, that would be just about there. So we're going to guess that this bit we know is 90. It's not very much more than 90, so I'm going to estimate that it's going to be about 100 degrees. That's my estimate. When I put my protractor on, I put the point on the point of the angle, and I line up my bottom line with the bottom line on the protractor and the bottom line on the angle matching. Because I've lined up this bottom line, I'm using the inside numbers again, and I'm going to go around, and that's 110 degrees in fact. So I haven't been quite right with my estimate, but I wasn't too far out. 110 degrees. Now what I hope you can see very quickly is that all of these numbers add up to make 180, all of these pairs. So here I've got 0 and 180, and they make 180. I've got 10 and 170. I've got 20 and 160, 30 and 150. All of the pairs add up to make 180 because that's all the way around. But you can see some of the numbers go from 0 to 180 on the inside, and some go on the outside in the other direction. And that's because sometimes our angles have to be measured the other way round. So for this angle, we can see that it is reflex. It's a very big angle. It goes all the way around past halfway, past a straight line. So this time, we're going to measure slightly differently. Oh, I've got my protractor. There we go. So you can see here that this time I've got to use my outside numbers because my bottom line is lined up with the outside 0. And I'm going to get all the way around to here before I run out of protractor. I've got 180 degrees all the way around to there. What I have to do next is move my protractor and put it back on the dot, but this time with my mark on the 180, and I have to carry on counting. So I've got another 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, so that's 190, 200, 210, 220, 230 degrees. Oh, there we go. Okay. There is another way to do this one, and some of you might prefer it. The other way that we can do it is by using the fact that we know that all the angles in a circle go all the way around to 360, and we can measure just this bit, and that gives us 130 degrees. And then we have to do 360 degrees, take away the bit we didn't want, and we end up with our 230 degrees again. Okay? This one, we're going to estimate this one, we're going to guess what this one is. It's very nearly 180, so I'm going to estimate 170. It's another obtuse angle. And when we put our protractor on and double check, in fact, I've been a little bit over generous, it's 160 degrees. But I know that it's not 20 because it's way too big to be 20 degrees.